Being an IANA member, we get to contribute to sharing best practices, to sharing information, developing ways of improving our processes and our communication. The collaborative nature of the industry, working with everybody, provides real benefit.
Hey, supply chainers, wherever you are in the world, this is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. That's right. It's another Tuesday, and I'm super excited to be here with you. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, which I have my t-shirt on today, and founder of the Blended Pledge, which is our nonprofit that gives away grants to cover travel expenses so diverse voices can say yes to speaking engagements. Anyways, we have an amazing show coming up today. I've got Hope from Mother Trucker Yoga joining me today, and we are talking about the industry. We're talking about frontline workers. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about burnout and so many really great conversations that I think we need to have more of. But of course, we cannot have this show without our sponsors. So what are your business supply chain challenges? You know, too much inventory on hand, too many disruptions and stockouts. Are there just too many steps and touch points involved? Well, Fastenal can tailor a solution from automated bins that monitor your inventory 24/7 to vending devices that help you track and control the products that keep your businesses running. Go to fastenal.com/LTSC to see how Fastenal, where industry meets innovation. All right. Well, before we bring up Hope, we do want to talk about what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain right now. And yesterday, we dropped a new episode of Woman in Supply Chain with Sil. Now, Sil is, she's former military, I believe, Canadian Armed Forces. And she came into supply chain after her career in the Canadian Armed Forces. And her journey is incredible. If you have not listened to this episode, you definitely want to go and check it out because she actually sold one of her businesses to Flexport, and she talks all about it in this episode. So wherever you listen to the podcast, either on Apple, Spotify, you can go to letstalksupplychain.com. You can also go to our YouTube channel. Go check it out. Ooh, I'm having trouble talking today. Episode 331. And remember, if you have a supply chain challenge, we have most likely had the solution on our show. So head over to letstalksupplychain.com, go to the search function, type in your keyword, and those episodes will come up. And we talk about whether you're the right fit for them, whether they're the right fit for you before you even get into their sales funnel. So go and check that out. All right, what else have we got? So we've got our brand new brand called the Secret Society of Supply Chain. Now, we have had over 100 people take this quiz and join our membership groups in just under 24 hours. We have limited spots, so you definitely want to go and check out the link. You want to take the quiz, and then we'll let you know which membership group is right for you. We have 3 of them. One is the Supply Chainers, which will give you amazing content from influencers in the industry. Number 2 is our Woman in Supply Chain membership group, where you're going to meet monthly, and we've got a professional facilitator to bring us all together and have some amazing discussions. And number 3 is the Creative Room. Now, this is specifically for marketing professionals in supply chain, and that one's going to be facilitated by me. That's a monthly meetup group as well. So go and check that out. What else have we got going on? Oh, we have got LinkedIn Live with IANA and TTX. Now, this is all about intermodal market trends. We're going to put the registration page in the comments so that you can go and register now. You want to make sure that you register whether you can attend live or not, because I will send you the link to the recording afterwards. We are going to give you all of the market trends around intermodal, what it means for your business. We're going to be talking about economies. We're going to be talking about inflation. We're going to be talking about everything you need to know. So definitely go and register for that. And oh, well, there you go. That's the registration page. And then, of course, on Friday, we've got Log Tech Live with Eric Johnson. Now, he's going to be exploring practical uses, impact on jobs, and what makes a good AI. Now, you don't want to miss this one. Again, if you click the attend button and you cannot make it live, I will send you the link to the recording so you can go and watch it yourself. All right. Without further ado, I am going to bring up Hope. Hello, Hope. How you doing?
Hello, it's great to be here today.
I'm so excited to see you, and I love the pink. I mean, great color on you.
Gotta
All
pop a little bit.
all the way from Wisconsin. So if you hear some outs and abouts from me and you hear the accent from Hope, I mean, just know where we're all from because I'm Canadian. Anyways, why don't you give
Pretty.
everybody an introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Hope Zvara, and I am the CEO of Mother Trucker Yoga. You heard that right. Mother Trucker Yoga. We help over-the-road truck drivers who are living a sedentary lifestyle and struggle with things like back pain, mid-drive brain fog, not sure what to eat at a truck stop, sleep issues, with small, simple changes, many of which they can do right in the cab of the truck, even right in the driver's seat, so that they can keep on trucking and feel good.
I love that. And I love the name of your company. I mean, how did you come up with that?
It was actually just in a conversation 5 years ago. I met my former business partner at a small business mixer here in Wisconsin. I was trying to pitch him corporate yoga. He looks at me and says, "Do you have anything for truck drivers, like in the cab of the truck?" And I think I'm funny sometimes. And I threw up my hands and said, "Mother Trucker Yoga," just trying to get a rise out of this guy. We shook on it. The next day he called me up. 4 months later, we built Mother Trucker Yoga from scratch. And a year later, I bought him out of the business. And here we are.
Nice. I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship, Hope, because I pushed the envelopes of the industry with my original name called Two Babes Talk Supply Chain. The podcast was originally called that because I was like, let's push the envelope and see where we can go with this.
I love it. I just feel like in the world today, so many people take things personal and it's not personal.
No.
And I just feel like laughter and smiles. And for a lot of these people in trucking, you have to kind of pull them in and pique their
I know.
interest, and you have to stand out, especially when it comes to health and wellness in trucking.
Absolutely. Well, I want to give a shout out to Samuel and Raza over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us. All right. So I want to talk to you about the poll that we asked everybody last week. Now, we had 387 votes, 76% of you. Now, the question was, would you rather attend events in person or online? 76% of you said in person because you get to network. I mean, who doesn't want to be in person now that we were all locked up for the pandemic? 22% of you said online, it's more comfortable. Now, in both cases, we're either on our feet a lot or we're either sitting a lot. So, what would you say to some of these folks that are attending in person or online as to what's the best way to get, keep our bodies sort of moving or maybe even stretched? Because I feel like we don't stretch enough.
Agreed. Well, first things first, hydration is key. Your muscles thrive on hydration. So making sure we're fully hydrated when we're out and about or even sitting at the computer is really important. But if you're walking, you're at a live networking event. I was just at Mid-America Truck Show. I think I walked like 40 miles in 3 days. Crazy.
Holy moly.
I know, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think we're averaging like 7 miles a day. So maybe not quite 40, but pretty close. So first things first, making sure that you're stretching your calves. That can be something as simple as just dropping your heel off of a step and getting that nice stretch. That's going to help reduce things like knee pain and back pain. When you're sitting, this is great for both in person and behind a computer, doing what I call figure 4 stretch. That's just you sitting at a chair, crossing your ankle over your knee, and then leaning forward and gently pressing on that crossed leg. But also just throughout the day, lifting your arms up overhead, interlacing your fingers, stretching side to side, pulling your arms behind you. All of these little things add up. And as we age and as convenience continues to rob us of these necessary movements, we do start to stiffen up. So just trying to find those little pockets of time to just move your body. It doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to even know what you're doing. Just move your body.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really found that as I've gotten older, stretching 2 to 3 times a week is like essential. Like I totally feel it if I've been traveling a lot and totally neglected to stretch. And like you said, it doesn't have to be like a whole, 15-minute routine. Yeah, you can just literally lift your arms. I love it. I love it. So would you rather an in-person event or an online event? Tell me.
I love in-person events. I love to feel people's energy. I love the human connection, but I
Yeah.
have to say virtual has really bridged a gap for people you may not otherwise ever been able to be at an event. And I love things like Zoom, where you can go into breakout rooms and you can still get that one-on-one contact, the chat.
Mhm.
I mean, I think if you're going to do a virtual event, you have to utilize every aspect of what's offered. But man, I'm live person through and through.
Awesome. Well, we had some mixture in the comments of people wanting to be in person and online for a variety of different reasons. So I highly recommend to go and check out the comments. I also forgot to mention that we are going to be announcing our follower of the month. Actually, I think it's either today or this week. So make sure to follow the page and see if you might be the follower of the month. Now, this is the time that we usually do our market update. And so, Hope, talk to us a little bit about what's happening in hiring and retention, maybe in the trucking industry, because we've heard over the last couple of years that obviously we don't have enough truckers. And we are also hearing that retention sometimes, especially in this industry, is becoming a little bit tougher as well. So, talk to us a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the articles.
Yeah. And so working with CDL schools and trucking companies, I mean, turnover is high in trucking. And until certain things kind of get changed or adjusted, I don't think we're going to see a huge difference in that. We're at about 90%. Some stats show driver turnover. Average driver stays anywhere between 6 weeks to 6 months. And here's an interesting thing that I have noticed talking with dozens of trucking company owners, that the sign-on bonuses that just keep getting higher. I've seen sign-on bonuses at 20K for drivers, and it's not working. And one of the things that I've noticed, the new drivers coming in working with CDL schools, is that they're wanting lifestyle accommodations. They're wanting to be cared for as a person. Money's not cutting it anymore. And so we have to really flip the script and shift our perspective if we want to change those numbers and lower turnover and increase retention, because these drivers coming into the industry are excited about trucking. They like the idea of trucking, but they're not just interested in a big paycheck. They want also the lifestyle experience. They want to be appreciated. They want to take care of their bodies. They want to take care of their families. And we have to start changing as an industry, but also as a company owner. If you have a fleet, you need to start looking at these drivers as individuals and as humans. I don't mean that in a bad way, but we have to start looking at their physical and mental needs as well, not just their pocket.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that update. Now, I want to remind the audience, we are only here till 10:30. So if you have any questions for Hope, make sure to put them in the comments, because we definitely want to make sure that we cover that. Now, I want to get to our first article because what it's talking about is, let me just pull this up here. I wasn't ready. It's talking about mental health in trucking. Now, this is from March 2022. And so it talks about how the pandemic really took a toll on drivers' mental health. But I think it's still relevant today. So talk to us about what you're seeing, because in this article, it talks about how mental health directly affects physical well-being, performance, and safety. Now, safety is a huge one, right? Not only for them, but also the others on the road that they're with and driving with on a daily basis. And that's a really, really big deal. They're also talking about how this is one of the most isolating jobs out there, which I can totally see. And they see a lot more than most people see, i.e. human trafficking, they mentioned in this particular article. So talk to us about what is happening. Where are we at? Remember, this article is from March. Where are we at today?
Well, I think first of all, pre-COVID, this was already a problem. Mental health, suicide, depression, anxiety, PTSD, burnout. Like, this isn't new to the trucking industry. I think COVID has brought this to the limelight and definitely has put a spotlight on drivers in a better way to help them start getting the care and the support that they need. But I do agree that a lot of drivers, they're almost kind of suffering in secret. because
Mhm.
even their dispatchers, even the company owners, even, their spouses aren't seeing them on a regular enough basis to really know what's going on inside the cab of the truck.
Yeah.
Burnout is real. So for drivers listening, if you're struggling with things like headaches, fatigue, random aches and pains, trouble sleeping at night, you could be struggling with burnout. You could be struggling with anxiety, and being able to not just seek professional help, but there are things that you can be doing for yourself every day, right from the cab of the truck, to help minimize some of those symptoms, post COVID or not, until we start equipping our drivers with better resources for them to practice self-care. I don't see that changing.
Yeah, and one of the other things, this is a great article, by the way. Go and check it out because there's so much in this article. But one of the things that they talked about was the pressure that, we really do put on this industry, that we put on the truckers themselves as well, that maybe we're not even really thinking about in that moment. So let's think about somebody in the office. The truck's not there yet. We've got all sorts of demands on us. And so the pressure kind of goes down the line, because then it's, the trucking company, where is the driver? Why is it not here? Et cetera, et cetera. And then they're putting the pressure on the driver, who, I mean, really at the end of the day can only do so much, right? There's traffic, there's speed limits, there's obviously different things that they have to think about while they're driving.
Well,
So
there's driving hours. I mean, they can only drive so much. They can only do so much. And I think sometimes the disconnect again is because we can't see them physically in that moment, that we just expect them to be able to, kind of create miracles and move mountains. I mean, just think about Amazon even. You order something now and it allows you same day delivery. It'll even tell you the estimated time. But man, you see people get so upset if they're a half an hour late. I'm like, dude, it used to take 2 weeks for you to get a package and you're mad over like 6 hours. And
yeah.
so for drivers, I think equipping yourself with the necessary tools, breathing techniques, meditations, just turning on some music. You have to de-stress sometimes at some point throughout the day, or you're just going to keep taking that on and it's going to compile and it's compile. And physically, our bodies react to how we are mentally. So if you're constantly taking on that stress, all of a sudden you have chronic back pain and it isn't your driver's seat. You're not sleeping well and there's no reason for it. It can also affect things like blood pressure. Even blood sugar levels can be affected when we are at high levels of stress. So you have to advocate for yourself and also draw the line.
Well, and we're going to talk about some of those solutions coming up. But before we do that, I'm glad you brought up stress, because a lot of times we think that stress and burnout are the same thing. Now, our second article is about burnout. Now, this isn't necessarily just for the trucking industry. This is an article about burnout for managers, which a lot of people are experiencing at the moment. And what I didn't realize until I read this particular article was that stress and burnout are two very, very different things. And we all experience both of them very differently. And we all have a variety of different pressures that are on us to help us experience this. And what they're saying is that stress can be managed very differently than burnout. Burnout takes a very, very, very long time to recover from. It's not just, a weekend in bed like we think it is, and that can help reduce potentially stress. A lot of us think that it's the workload that helps reduce the burnout as well. So talk to me about this, because I know that truckers are feeling burnout as well. And again, we all experience it very differently. And so talk to us about what's happening with that and how we're thinking about stress and burnout at the same time.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, stress has been very normalized in our society, truck driver or not. And that's oftentimes a result of kind of over engagement. It's like we're doing too much, we're taking on too much. Our emotions and our reactivity is super high, it's super heightened. We may have just this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I need to do everything right now. Anxiety starts kicking in.
Yeah.
We feel it physically. We can definitely feel stress physically. We can feel a sense of urgency or hyperactivity. Like those are all stress signs. feelings. And oftentimes stress, we can manage that on a daily or weekly or shorter time period basis. Like we can be able to kind of get that in check. But if we let stress keep affecting us, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can experience burnout. I
Mhm.
have personally experienced burnout, and it took me months. Some
Mhm.
effects of it years to recover. We're looking at disengagement. So if you are listening to this and you just feel withdrawn, you just feel like kind of void, kind of empty, that could be a symptom and a sign that you are experiencing burnout.
Mm.
That feeling of helplessness. I know for many drivers, it's like we don't want to ask for help. We don't want to admit that we're struggling. But I got to tell you, if you don't, it's only going to get worse. Motivation. It's like hard to get out of bed. You know, you love your kids, but it's like you don't want to play with them. You know, you love your spouse, but it's like, oh, you just can't get yourself to do the things that you once loved. That could be a sign of burnout. Even again, those depressed feelings, but it's chronic. It's not ending. With stress, we
Right.
see like peaks of sunshine. With burnout, it's really hard to notice that.
And it's heavy, right? But I think
Yes.
part of this too is the stigma of the industry, right? Truck
Oh,
drivers
100%.
are macho, they're tough.
100%.
We've got to get through that, and we've got to create these safe spaces to be able to talk about these things openly and honestly. And it's not easy. I just went through a lot of this with my family just recently and telling them how I was feeling and what I was going through. And that was hard for me, right? I could only imagine being a truck driver and having to be vulnerable and talk about my feelings like that.
But already just talking about it, just voicing it, and that's one thing I've seen with many of the drivers that I've worked with, giving them an opportunity to actually share how they really feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's even outside of the trucking industry. We as a culture, we're taught to hustle and grind, like show no fear, like keep going. Like that's kind of embedded into who we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, as somebody in recovery, that doesn't get you very far. And if I could go back and do things differently, I would have vocalized how I felt more. I would have expressed what I needed more. And for
Mhm.
drivers, like, I just want to let you know, you got to find that person. You have to find that group of people that you can confide in, that loves you and wants to support you. You are not alone. Although you may have a somewhat lonely job, you are not alone. And
Yeah.
that first step is really getting it out, even if it's just journaling it, write it down on paper. Get it out of your head that you're
Mhm.
feeling these things. You might already feel a weight lifted just
Mhm.
expressing those things. And that could be the first step to decreasing stress, but also stepping away from burnout.
Yeah, so let's get into the solutions. But before we do that, I just want to go over a couple of other things from this particular article. What they're saying is that managers are taking on the role of being a therapist. You are not a therapist, be a
Mm,
coach, be the person that provides resources. You do not need to be that therapist because that's not your job. That's not what you're equipped to do. But
mhm,
you are equipped to provide your team with resources. And 32% of companies knows it's their responsibility, knows that it's their responsibility for their employees' mental health, which is
mhm.
huge. I mean, I think that number is very, very big. Now, let's talk about Mother Trucker Yoga. So, what is it that you do? I mean, again, I love the name. I love that you are bringing this as an opportunity and an option to managers as a resource, right? To organizations as a resource, to drivers as a resource. So let's talk about these solutions. What can people do to get to really help build their mental health, help through that journey? Because again, it's not necessarily a destination; it's got ebbs and flows, right? And get through that stress and that burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, Mother Trucker Yoga. Sometimes people are like, yoga. We're not doing yoga on a yoga mat in a truck stop. This is really my 20
You're
years
not?
of experience. I know, right? Wouldn't that be something? In the yoga world, mindfulness, functional movement, and kind of breaking those things down and deconstructing them. I
Mm,
mean, anyone can show you a bicep curl in a driver's seat. That's not brain surgery. But what I'm trying to show these drivers and these trucking companies is really how to enhance the lifestyle of a truck driver in the means of mental health, physical health, longevity, aging healthy. So when it comes to what you could take from Mother Trucker Yoga, it's simple things like movement. I don't believe we have a mental health crisis in America as much as we have a movement crisis. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the mental health issues that are looming out there, because I have suffered them myself. But what I have found is movement is a direct link to mental health. When we move, our cortisol levels drop. We boost dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, neurotransmitters in the brain. We oxygenate our body, which helps with constipation, helps with our muscles. Like, everything is affected by movement. And if you look at our culture, what are we not doing more than ever? Moving. And so first things first is, getting out and moving your body more. And if you are struggling with things like mental health, consider basic strategies like 5 minutes before you go to bed at night, you're laying down. Nobody can see you, by the way. Turn on some relaxing music. Turn on some brainwave music. Go to Spotify and just search brainwave sleep music and turn it on for 5 minutes. Put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and just focus your mind on your breathing for 5 minutes. Can't do it for 5 minutes, do it for 3 minutes, do it for 1 minute. You are going to drop out of that stress, that fight or flight state, and bring yourself into rest and digest so that you can sleep and restore your body the way it's designed. These are some of the simple things that we're teaching drivers over at Mother Trucker Yoga.
Amazing. And I think some stretches, right? The stretching is really, really important. Especially when you're sitting for a long time.
Yes. There's a doctor by the name of Gil Hidley, and he talks about the fuzz. And so we have this fascia layer all over our body, even in our eyes, even within our cells, there's fascia. And he talks about it every single morning. If you don't wake up and move your body, it doesn't matter how you do it, you're not melting the fuzz. And if you go to a closet and there's a coat in that closet that hasn't been touched in like 30 years, there's like that thick layer of like dust. Yes. That's what's happening in your body when you don't move it. And so it is a move it or lose it. So just moving your shoulders, moving your body, rolling your neck, all of these things get the blood flowing, get the endorphins flowing, and most importantly, get you feeling good again.
I love that. Now, some of the other solutions that came out of my research for this particular episode is communication, which we talked about, right? Being able to create that space as a manager, and opening the dialogue for communication, opening the channels to be able to do therapy on the road, right? Because a lot of times for drivers, they don't have, they don't have time to really go in and see somebody.
Their schedules are everywhere.
So how do we bring somebody to them? They might not feel comfortable on Zoom. So can we do it by a phone call, right? The managers may be checking in by Zoom so you can see them and you can see what's going on with them. Another thing they talked about was peer support groups. TNC Radio, this show is actually syndicated on TNC Radio, which is specifically for the trucking industry and drivers. And it comes out, I think, Tuesday nights. But go and listen to that, be a part of the group, hear what other people are saying in the industry and feel connected, right? I think connection is really, really important. There's also Facebook groups like Trucker for Truckers. I didn't even know this, right? But these are the places where we can find connection when maybe we're out on the road on our own. We feel a little bit isolated. And something else that they mentioned, I think it was Clarissa in the Forbes article, said mental health and self-care as part of the training. We train drivers on safety. Why are we not including resources and mental health and self-care training while on the road?
Absolutely. And that's one thing I've been working with trucking companies and CDL schools is equipping these drivers before they come into the industry. We care so much about the trucks that they're driving, yet we care. It's almost like an afterthought when it comes to the truck driver themselves. I think in a recent survey, it was 60% of trucking companies have wellness programs. Unfortunately, though, I think 2022, I talked to about 25 different trucking companies, and less than 10% of them had a high return on those wellness programs, meaning drivers were engaging. And it's because really, in my mind, in my experience, these companies are approaching them all wrong. They're expecting them to do too much, making them be involved in way too many activities. A lot of these drivers have never done anything for themselves before in regards to health and wellness and physical fitness. And we're asking them to walk 10 miles a week and asking them to like go keto and do all these things. Like, we're creating bigger gaps, which leads back to to what we were talking about earlier, stress.
Pressure.
Now they're feeling, yes, pressure. Now they're feeling
Mhm.
like, wow, now I suck at another thing. Wow, that's
Right.
another thing now I can't complete. Like,
Yeah.
talk about not seeing the driver in the environment that they're in and putting
Mhm.
yourself in their shoes. And that's something I think that I've really zeroed in on when it comes to mother trucker yoga.
We love what you're doing. I'm so glad that we had you on the show. Now, one thing that I did want to say is no more sacrificing health for work, people. I hope that that's what has come through on this particular episode. Now, before we go, I really just want to let everybody know where we are going to be coming up. So we're going to be at Home Delivery World June 14th through 15th. Come and see us. They've got a really, really good lineup of speakers, and we are going to be recording podcast episodes on site. So if you want to be on the show, reach out to us because we've got some show specials going on. We've got the Intermodal LinkedIn Live coming up April 13th, and we've got Log Tech Live coming up with Eric Johnson at the end of the week. Hope, thank you so much for joining us today, to the audience for joining us today, and I hope everybody has a great week ahead.